Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a windy campfire. My name is Scott, and a lot of you will know Jamie, who was out this afternoon with Sindile and others. And it sounds like you've just been spending some great time with James and a herd of elephant. Not a bad way to end off the evening, but it is great to have you here around the fire. It's something we only do once a week, and it gives us an opportunity to continue chatting and interacting with you, but also focus on some of the highlights that we've had during the week. Now, I only arrived back on Monday, but Jamie's been here for the whole week, and we really have been spoilt. Early on, I guess I was lucky enough to get some of the top sightings early on in the week, and a lot of which were involving hyena, and we're actually going to focus the show this evening on hyena. All three of us have actually had some really incredible sightings of the hyena here on Djuma, at the den, away from the den, so we're going to be showing you some clips about that. But in the meantime, we're going to focus on some of the other highlights that we've been having. And I guess one that some of you would have seen was Tingana vocalizing. I know, Jamie, you've seen the clip.
It's absolutely amazing. So cool to see that.
Exactly. I mean, to have him walking straight to the vehicle and vocalizing at the same time. He was only a few meters away. So if you didn't see that, I'm sorry, you've got to make sure you try and tune into more shows. We're not going to be playing that highlight. We've just got too many to show you. But on the topic of leopards, we didn't only have a good sighting with only Tingana. Jamie's had some very memorable sightings with not only Sindile, but Shadow as well.
It's really been an awesome week, and it was so difficult to pick a particular highlight. But for me, to see Sindile and have a chance to see him with the first time any of us have ever seen him with a kill was really, really super exciting. So for those of you who might have missed it, we found Sindile on a termite mound with a little dwarf mongoose that he obviously killed himself, and you could see he was so proud of himself. He was just picking it up and carrying it around. It was really, really awesome to see, and it also gave us a great view of those strange double canines that he has. It's the weirdest thing.
Exactly, and it's taken certainly me a long time to realize and notice these double canines of his. So really surprising stuff, and like you say, not only the excitement of seeing the dwarf mongoose kill his first known kill. I'm sure he's made lots on his year on the planet so far, but his first confirmed kill was a great thing to actually see.
It was very special, and it was nice to be able to share it with all of the viewers for the first time we'd actually seen it, and nice to know that Sindile is capable of looking after himself. And then for me, just a little bit after that, I think it was a day or two after that, to find them for the first time, to track them from start to finish on foot, and then to find Sindile on the termite mound and follow him in was really, really a highlight. It is the first time I've tracked and found them while I've been on the Sabi Sands. So an awesome way to sort of get started, get the guides on board. So awesome for me.
And you had been tracking them since that morning. Jamie wasn't out presenting the morning of that day that you found them, and she actually was following tracks in the morning, didn't have any luck, went back in the afternoon, continued trying, and eventually found what led to be an incredible sighting of them.
It was a lot of, patience and hard work, good lesson in it paying off. And then of course it led to the fact, we didn't know it at the time, but we just moved around the termite mound, and there was Shadow with a steenbok kill. So we actually got to sit with him for almost 2 hours and just really spend some quality time watching them have a little bit of a munch and enjoy the sighting, and some great dynamics happening between Shadow and Sindile. So very, very cool.
Exactly. Now, off the topic of leopards, because like I said, we've had an action-packed week, we're going to show you a unique clip now, but I'm going to give you a little bit of the background before it. We were probably 5 minutes until the end of a morning drive. It was on Tuesday morning, I think, and we had stopped at the Vuyatela Dam, or the Djuma Dam, where the live waterhole camera is. And there were two saddlebred stork casually feeding around, as we so often see them. But as we were about to close, the female struck down into the water and pulled out a massive tilapia. And we were all so excited. It was the biggest kill that I've ever seen a saddlebred stork make. Not that I've seen them make many, but it was great to finally see them catch something substantial. And what happened next, you would not believe. So I'm not going to tell you about that. Some of you would have not seen this. And enjoy this really, really interesting clip of a saddle-billed stork and an intruder who comes to try and steal its prey. We'll see afterwards. Look at that. Awesome. It's a massive tilapia. How on earth is it going to swallow that? It's the biggest kill I've ever seen a saddle-billed stork make. The last time I saw them catch and kill something was in Tanzania, and that was a tiny little catfish. Oh no, the fish eagles come, look at this! That is ridiculous! What next? Well, like I said, what an incredible capture we got, and well done to VM, who was managed to be quick enough to actually realize the fish eagle was coming in and managed to follow it away and actually see it vocalize and call. It's a wonderful call of Africa. And isn't it interesting to see how not only lions and leopards and hyena will try and steal from one another, but also the predatory birds. So it's tough out there. And I didn't even know the fish eagle was at the dam, and all of a sudden it came down. That was one lucky tilapia, I guess. That tilapia is going to have some great stories to tell its friends, and something that's so unique. And that's the great thing about us being here. We do see so many different things, and for me that was so unique and such an awesome sighting. And again, thanks and well done to VM for that nifty camera work to make sure we all didn't miss any of the action. I've just heard James arriving, so that's good news. He's going to be joining us shortly. And you may have noticed a guitar in the background. That's also an important part of our fireside chats. James is a very talented musician.
He is indeed.
And he will be playing us one of his own personal songs that he's actually written at the end of the show. So that's worth hanging around for. Now, as I said a bit earlier, we are going to focus the kind of highlights of this week and the pictures and videos of this week of hyena and interesting different sightings that we've seen with them. We've been noticing that there's been a lot of interaction and hierarchical competition over the last few weeks, and we haven't quite got to know exactly who's who within the clan yet. But Jamie's spent some time there and noted some interesting stuff along the way.
And that is what's so cool about what it is that we do, and having the viewers on the back of the vehicle the whole time, is just that we really get that opportunity to come back over and over again to the den site and really get to sit with them for months at a time and observe the behavior. And that's what gives us the great clues about what is happening between the various hyenas and their dynamics and their social hierarchies. So it is really, really cool that we get to share that with you guys and actually build up a database of information and start to get to know a little bit more about the hyenas and their dynamics.
Exactly, we are so privileged, especially with you as our guests and our viewers. We aren't forced to race around like a lot of the guides here. We can afford to invest time. Also, the fact that we've got 2 vehicles allows us to spend a lot of quality time with animals, waiting for these interesting interactions to happen. So it's a good point that Jamie's made there. And we are slowly beginning to unravel the puzzle of this hyena clan and their very complex hierarchical system. So that's something that we look forward to sharing and discussing with you a little bit later. But in the meantime, we've got a question from Joyce, and it's important that we do chat, so do send through your questions and comments to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or questions@wildearth.tv. James, good evening, sir.
Hello.
Welcome. I like your stockings.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Hello.
Very
hello.
muddy.
Yes, it was nice to shake hands. I'm going to sit on this
Okay, no, let me give this to you then.
toilet-shaped
Let me give you this.
thing. No, I'm
You
fine.
sure?
Don't worry.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Good. Well,
Please excuse my legs. I tried to catch a barbel in Twin Dams.
and did you get one?
No, I failed horribly.
Did you touch one at least?
No, one touched me and I got a fright. I made a very unmanly sound. Yes.
Well, I'm certainly jealous of you guys that got to see that, as I'm sure Jamie is.
I'm
as
sorry
well.
I missed out.
Yes. Anyway, so it goes.
Okay, well, We've just got an interesting question through from Joyce in Kansas.
Yes.
And it's, like I said, great for us to answer your questions. And this is a little bit off the topics for this evening, but it's still very relative to what we're doing. And Joyce has mentioned that she understands that we're beginning to traverse around the different lodges within the Sabi Sands. But what are the chances of actually filming and doing this from all around the world? Well, it's certainly possible, Joyce. And that's why I keep saying you need to tell all your friends, get as many people to tune in as possible, and that way we could hopefully end up not only in different parts of Africa, but also the world.
I mean, that's certainly one of the things that Scott and I and now Jamie are starting to think about all the time, because it's wonderful driving around here, but as naturalists, you know, we want to spend as much time as we can in the most, in the world's most beautiful wilderness areas. And so to be able to bring them to you in this manner would just be fantastic. Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, maybe some of the parts of the northern hemisphere where there are wonderful wildlife areas, bits of Canada maybe, I don't know, Russia even, perhaps not. Maybe northern Russia or some of the polar regions even, South America, the incredible animals they have there, and India, I mean the incredible wildlife they have there. The possibilities are limitless. Tell all your friends, please, as Scott says.
Yeah. Well, Joyce, thanks for sending that through, but it is time for us to start getting to these hyena clips and letting you know a little bit about what we are going to show you. So let's start off with highlights of the week that I was lucky enough to see. Early on Tuesday morning, we're actually on our way to the hyena den site, but before we could get there, we saw one hyena running across the road nearby, drove up into that area and noticed a drag mark of an animal that it had obviously killed or had been killed, and it was dragging the remains across the road. We drove into that area, and then all of a sudden there was about 6 or 7 hyena all running around chasing one another. So let's show you that clip. It's a young buffalo carcass that they are playing with or fighting for, really, and it's some really interesting interactions between them. And just listen and wait until you hear this ridiculous audio that comes from these animals when they do get excited.
Yeah, it is amazing.
We're going to get Andrew to point the camera in the direction of the audio so that it's louder. Okay, well, like I said, absolutely crazy, crazy audio.
Really
Jamie and James have also had a look at those videos.
And it's such a wonderful sound to hear.
And interesting in that it's only kind of one of several different noises that they make. So that is possibly how they get their name, the laughing hyena, that kind of audio. They also have a more high-pitched and high-intensity cackle that they'll let off.
And I think, I mean, you heard the volume of it, and it's an amazing volume that they managed to generate. And if you can imagine 20 of them going for it like that around a lion kill, you can imagine being a tremendously intimidating sound. So I think apart from just simple communication, I think it's got a really intimidating intimidatory reason for being there.
Absolutely.
And the interaction that we saw and why it was interesting for us is not only because of the great action that was displayed and they're running around and the loud noises they were making, but also the fact that there's so much respect for certain members of a hyena clan. And just with vocalizing around one another, and very seldom contact was actually made while they were fighting, other hyena respected the one that was dominant over that carcass. And that's what we're really trying to get to grips with. Who is the most dominant member of our hyena clan here at Djuma? And I think that the next clip, which was involved with Jamie, will help us kind of piece together a bit of the puzzle. And
so absolutely, just a little bit of background before we show you this clip. So I drove up to the hyena den first thing in the morning, and there was one female suckling 2 cubs, and there are actually 3 different sets of cubs from different mothers, and she was suckling with a slightly older cub off to the left chewing on a hoof, and then a different female, slightly younger, slightly smaller, came in, and immediately we were able to see the position, the different social structure and the hierarchies of these 2 individuals. So let's watch the clip for now, and then we can discuss a little bit about what we saw and what it showed us. various social greetings between individuals. So it will be quite interesting to see how this one responds to the female that's currently suckling the cubs. And almost instantly we're given a very valuable insight into this dynamic. So the female that was suckling is very, very submissive to the one that's just come in, and immediately showing submissive behavior, sniffing the genitals. Suckling the two cubs was showing her submissive behavior. So we can see straight away that that new mother that came in and then went on to suckle the older cub is dominant over the female who was first there and suckling the cubs. And when she came in, you will have seen that she came in with very dominant body posture with the tail right up, and her cub actually came in to join her, also with his tail upwards. And Ellen in Arkansas was just wondering a little bit about what the tail means in terms of when the hyena are moving through the bush. And it is a sign of excitement, and it can be a sign of dominance behavior and a dominance display. And you'll have seen with the female that was suckling first, her tail stayed tucked down throughout that entire encounter. So just quite a good indication as to where she sits in the social status. So we're starting to piece together what's happening around that den site, and that is why den sites are so valuable to us as a place of observation.
I think also I've seen hyena clans around when they come into contact with each other, strangers, then they'll all put their tails up when they get excited. But and that's generally how I've thought of it. But Jamie makes an interesting point that the one who was being submissive folded her tail right up. And I mean, the tail isn't amazing on a hyena. It looks a bit like a badger tail. It's like a flap of frightening sort of skin, and it is most amusing to watch them running with it stuck up like that. So they tend to do it when they're excited, I guess, but also obviously a very great display of submission when it's down. The next clip that we've got is a clip of the youngest cub and the mother of the youngest cub, and I think we're all in agreement that this female is probably the matriarch. And when we come back, we'll show you the clip first, and when we come back, I'll share with you my reasons for thinking it, and then we'll discuss it. So here it is, the little cub and the big mother.
A nasty scar on the back there. See that, Chandra? I think that's probably from... That's quite a vicious scar on her back. I wonder what that comes from. It could well be a fight with a lion, you know. It looks like a claw mark from a narrow escape. An old hyena female like that would definitely at some stage have had a conflict with a lion or two. And I think she is the matriarch.
So there you saw it, and I mean the most obviously identifying mark on that large female is the big scar on her back. And apart from that, I mean, she's got a pretty moth-eaten coat. Her face is fairly, the fur is coming off her face, and so I think she's quite a lot older than the other two. And one of the main reasons I think she's the matriarch is that she's got one cub, and that cub looks to be a female, very difficult to tell, but I think it's a female. It's quite scarred, which indicates quite a lot of fighting, and that would indicate that when the matriarchs give birth to two female cubs, one of them will kill the other one. And I suspect quite strongly that that's what's happened at this den here, and that female is now probably heir to the throne. Although, now here's an interesting one, is that female might be the sibling of another cub to the matriarch who's now an adult, in which case it would be the older cub who will take over the clan. So we've got three levels of hierarchy there, and the identifying marks, of course, being that scar across the back, is the most obvious one, but she's got a really moth-eaten face when you look at her, the big female. Then we've got the second one has a hole in the ear.
In the right ear, the one
Right
that was
ear.
more dominant over the one with the
Yes.
the twins, you could say, the two
Yeah.
middle-aged cubs. So at least we can distinguish between the three mothers
Yeah.
in the clan. And that leads to a good opportunity to answer a question from Don. Good evening, Don. Good to have you with us. Don would like to know, do we know how many hyena are in this clan? And I guess
don't.
it's the three mothers, the three
least,
older cubs and
yeah.
the new one. So that's 7 guaranteed
Yeah.
members of the clan. Males and younger daughters who may not be sexually mature yet and are coming and going from the den, there could be about 3 or 4 sub-adults that we see coming and going, but they are so hard to distinguish from one another.
Yeah.
So maybe about 10 or 11, I
I
guess.
would say at least probably. Because of the area that we're in, hyenas tend to forage quite a lot alone. They do a lot more scavenging than they do hunting in this particular area. And what's interesting is that the borders between the hyena clan territories are normally pretty distinctly marked.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can think of any areas where there are that white dung is put in middens.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one up in the east there, around Drakensberg Road. I haven't seen too many other than that, but I have seen hyenas there. And I suspect that might be the border of this clan that we're watching,
Most
which would
certainly.
indicate that their other border is quite a long way west, probably into Arethusa.
There is a very distinctly marked midden on, or latrine on Triple M
Okay.
as well, just around
All right.
Safari Drive. So that might be their western
Another
boundary
border,
on that
yeah.
side.
This is wild conjecture, of course, but that's the general idea. I mean, we don't see a lot of hyenas further to the east of us, do we? Or have
No,
you
we
seen quite a few of
We
them?
don't. I mean, I haven't seen many there coming from the Torchwood
Yeah.
side, but I think that the difficult thing that we face is that when we do see hyena, it's often such high intensity sightings or brief sightings of them when they're not at their den sites that it's hard to tell who's who.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, some of you, I think, have watched how those youngsters come up to the vehicles when they're young. But the parents don't do that anymore. And while we're able to sit, centimeters from lions and leopards sometimes in our vehicles, it doesn't happen with hyena adults. Hyena adults don't let us get nearly as close. They will run past us.
Yeah.
But if you follow them, they tend to try and keep a larger distance
Yeah.
away. So while we'd quite like to follow the adults a bit more than we probably do, they're active at night when we are fast asleep quite a lot of the time, and they're also moving away from us faster than lions or leopards do. And they also, what else they don't do that the other cats do, is they don't walk. They don't walk along the ground.
No,
they tend to
trot.
go in that lope, and it's quite a speed. And to cut through the bush with a hyena doing that speed, you're going to do even more damage than we do to these cars as it is.
Now, one thing that we can look into is all these new additions to the clan means it's obviously growing at quite a rate.
Yeah.
And Debbie from Vancouver is interested to know, would the clan potentially split if it got too big? And that's a great question, Debbie, and one that I actually haven't thought of.
I don't know for sure.
I don't know for sure, but I think definitely with the sub-adult males, they're going to start moving out on their own. And I was reading a bit of a study about what happens with large clans, and it didn't say much about splitting, but it did say that what you do sometimes get is almost like a coup between different matrilineal lines. So daughters either taking over from their mothers, or some of the sort of lower ranking females actually being involved in quite a serious fight and taking over the matriarchy position.
Okay.
And it's really important to have that matriarchal status because you get the best access to food, you don't move around as much, so your cubs actually grow up much faster. And it's shown in studies that the cubs of matriarchs will actually be weaned a lot faster than the cubs of the lower ranking females, and they will breed sooner.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Okay, well, thanks, Jamie, for that. I'm glad you knew what was going on there.
Me too.
And James, despite his shaggy appearance this evening, is going
I'm
to
sorry about that.
resurrect a lot of your thoughts about him as he has pulled out his wonderful guitar.
The axe. I must excuse my my appearance this evening, and just to tell you, there's one advantage to my foul-looking legs, in that is that this mud has dried and is pulling the hair out of my legs. I mean, it's really painful. But it does show you how when the rhino and buffalo and elephant throw mud on their skins, I'm sure that this drying effect pulls the ticks out of the skin. And I'm sure that's exactly what we've just experienced. So, you know, I hope you're all grateful that I've sacrificed my comfort like this for your edification and entertainment.
Eternally.
Right, the song that I'm going to perform this evening is called The Moonlit Valley, and it was penned by myself. And I like to sing it sometimes, or I like to sing it all the time, mainly when I'm under a sky like this, because I wrote it once when I was standing in the Drakensberg, looking out east over a valley, and there was a moon like there is tonight, and it just gave me a sense of the tremendous kind of romance of Africa. And I mean, obviously there was a girl in mind, and so I'm going to sing about her now. And we probably won't get to the end of the song by the time we cut you off, so thank you very much for your questions. Thanks for a great week, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Exactly.
She blew into town one day on a wind that misted up her eyes. Her hair missed a shade of yellow and her boots had stretched all the way to her thighs. She had a certain confidence, the look that held a man's gaze. She walked up to the counter where I was standing and she whispered in my face. She said, in the moonlit valley where I waited wishing time for you to find me, grass whispering your name. She stayed a while, we drank a bit, and she talked to me about life like it's a riddle. I sang a song I thought she'd like, but she started talking in the middle. She said I looked like I was hiding, and I told her, you know, you remind me of the sea. She was dancing in a skirt, the color of the joker I dreamed of, that moonlit valley where I waited wishing time for her to find me, grass whispering her name. On a murmur lives softly in the still air. And then one day she disappeared, she left me without a bite. I don't know if I'll see her again, but I'll be stupid not to try. Or maybe on a mountain top where the land meets the sea. She'll be dancing on the curd again, the color of the joker I dream of, that moonlit valley where I waited wishing time to find me, grass whispering her name. On a murmur lives softly in the still air, touch me like a warm breeze, then brings a shudder. I can almost feel her silhouette in the moonlight. Silver